I'm just checking. I think we are live. So welcome everyone to today's webinar on the future of enterprise integration platforms in the age of AI. So as we all know, and as those of you who follow me know that I talk about this a lot, enterprise integration is the glue that binds everything together. And as such, like everything else, it's being transformed by AI. But the need for integration, the need for systems to talk to each other is as great as ever. And so we're going to just look at that whole topic now, about how that whole space is being affected in the world of AI. We have a great lineup today. So obviously, you've got me. I'm Andrew Rivers. I'm the CEO of 345 Technology, and I'm hosting today. But I'm super excited to be joined by Steph Locke and Andrei Kamenev, both from Microsoft. So Steph works in the UK as a technology specialist manager, focusing on the digital app and app innovation space, and working with customers, partners on a variety of Maybe I should actually ask you to sort of give your quick bio, Steph. Because I'm making my words.
The way that I describe digital and app innovation is that we help people ship better value from software and all that entails, from better hosting to better development practices to better integration and developer productivity capabilities. So I get to help people for a living, which is awesome.
Fantastic. And Andrei is a product manager in the product team for API management. Andrei, would you like to give a quick
so I work as a product manager in API management. Recently, I was mostly focusing on Gen AI data capabilities and some of the AI innovation happening in API management. So happy to be here.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Andrei. So this is our agenda today. So we're going to cover off just Microsoft integration and AI as a general piece. Andrei is going to do a deeper dive into how AI and APIs are working together. I'm going to talk a little bit about AI-backed integration capabilities and some of the things that we're looking at for that. We're going to look at AI-infused integration processes. So Steph's going to talk about that a little bit. I'm then just going to wrap up with a little bit of key factors for success and conclude, and then and that's the subject. So it looks quite simple, the 6 things to cover, but there's a lot of ground in there. So without further ado, let's if we hand over to Steph to look at Microsoft integration and AI. Steph, over to you.
Awesome. So just hoping that my vision will move to the foreground. If not, Andrew, you will be my assistant, and we're going to be changing slides as we go.
That's okay.
So welcome, everybody. I'm going to quickly cover what does the current integration space and artificial intelligence space look like here at Microsoft. Next slide. There we go. Magic has happened. Brilliant. So first up, inside Azure Integration Services, we learned a lot from having solutions like BizTalk, SQL Server Integration Services over the years that have really helped businesses connect different systems together, standardize information, and really enable business processes. As we've moved into the cloud, we've kind of decomposed a lot of the functionality to allow people to plug and play for the right bits of technology that meet their needs. So we have everything from logic apps and data factory for low-code process creation, API management to be able to really manage and combine our APIs, through to event services and even low-code serverless execution. So we have a robust capability that enables us to do a lot of combinations of SaaS applications, first-party applications, and more based on your needs. So I wanted to talk about where this sits and what is the future like in the world of AI. And here at Microsoft, we see AI as having 4 key areas where it's going to make a difference. It's going to help people change the way they work for the better. It's going to help our customers have better interactions with us. It's going to improve our business processes, and it's going to help us learn faster. Now, one of the things that I love about all of these is these are actually a lot of the same goals that integration has, that we want to make it so that employees aren't doing swivel chair integrations, that they are finding the right information, that they can trust it. We want customers to have smooth experiences through different systems that we use to enable their interactions with us. And of course, business processes. So this is where integration and AI really fundamentally interlock for me, is in these goals. And this is where we're seeing a lot of combination. So using integration platform to deliver AI capabilities that achieve these goals. In terms of where AI is currently inside the Microsoft space, where we're matching these up, is first up in our AI Foundry. So this is our code-first type of space where we can combine models and capabilities from lots of different large language models to cognitive capabilities inside our coding and integration solutions. AI also features heavily in our interactions with our databases. So we, as well as our integration platform, working with all of these, our database capabilities are also increasingly enabling the use of AI inside them, or supporting AI by being able to host things like retrieval augmented generation data and things like that. So our databases and analytics plug and play with integration and with AI to really drive those improved employee experiences, business processes, customer experiences, and so on. And I pointed out that inside our integration platform, we have a number of low-code or no-code capabilities. And this is a really important lesson that we've learned and applied to the Copilot Studio space. So that it's not just the code first, you have to be a software engineer to write and get value out of AI, but also being able to create AI experiences that integrate with our existing business processes and more, but empowering business users to be able to do so. And a part of that probably everybody who's looking at LinkedIn might be a little like, what the heck is agents? But autonomous agents are our kind of capability, kind of general concept of AI working out how to perform an action, talking to the systems to work out what it needs to do, and then going and executing that. So you can think of autonomous agents as fundamentally system integrations that are ad hoc or company supported to achieve more. And how this is looking for us is our business outcomes for new customer experiences, changing business processes, empowering our employees through combining our integration capabilities with AI and our data from different data sources to really be able to achieve more. So that's the quick kind of landscape of integration and AI. And I'm going to hand over to Andre to talk about the context of APIs in all of this.
Thank you. Let me share. Yeah, all right. So In the next 10-ish minutes, I want to share why you should care about APIs or AI APIs as integration specialist or anyone who's interested in integration space. Like, first of all, Gen AI development runs on APIs. If you think about OpenAI models, Mistral, Llama, all of these models are essentially APIs. Like, you have the endpoint, you have the key, you send requests with your prompts, you receive responses with your completions. So that sounds like a familiar territory for anyone who is familiar with API management and challenges when it comes to those APIs. So this API is just like regular REST APIs or GraphQL APIs, like any APIs you have, they still have to be managed, secured, and governed. However, there are specific challenges when it comes to those APIs. Recently, I had a conversation with one of the customers who, like, as many customers, as a lot of customers we have today, they're starting to experiment with Gen AI. They're trying to find the best use cases to apply LLMs to their workflows, different applications, and so on. And what they did is they actually deployed an OpenAI. They have a GPT-4o, they have a key, and they want to run a hackathon just to make sure that everyone has access to this model, and they want to kind of experiment and see where LLM applies to their business processes. And what they did is they shared this one key with everyone, with every team and every developer that they have. Like, what can potentially go wrong here, right? And don't get me wrong, like they actually found a lot of use cases, they found a lot of applications, but the thing is that at the end of the month, they received a 100,000 bill just for token consumption for all of them. So, and then they reached out to us saying that, okay, we need to somehow make sure that we have proper governance and observability in place. So again, just with regular APIs, you can apply rate limits. You can secure your APIs by creating separate keys for developers. But then there are specific challenges. First of all, the main currency that you have with LLM APIs is tokens. Like, you consume tokens on prompts, you consume tokens on completions, and this is something which you're paying for. So you wanna have some sort of a control over. You not only want to understand the usage, but you also want to have some sort of a quotas and limits for your applications and your developers. Then there are reliability concerns. What if one model goes out of tokens available, or what if you have some throttling problems with this model? What if this model goes down? You want to have some sort of a mechanism to fail over to different endpoints or different models. When it comes to security, as I mentioned, like, sharing this one key as this customer did, probably not the best idea. You want to have something better. And as I mentioned, like, all of these APIs with Azure API Management, you can already enable basic monitoring. You can enable security. You can create subscription keys for your developers. You can have some governance and also have the discoverability of those APIs to your developers. But that's not enough, because there are specific challenges, as I mentioned. So that's why last year we decided to introduce Gen AI Gateway capabilities in Azure API Management. So these capabilities, they're tailored specifically for these challenges with AI APIs. So what are these capabilities specifically? So we introduced a bunch of policies. So first policy is a token metric policy, which allows you to send the token consumption to application insights that is linked to your Azure API Management instance. And you're pretty flexible here by which dimension you want to split the usage. So for example, it can be subscription ID, which is pretty typical for API management to identify API consumer. It can be user ID, it can be IP address, or it can be anything else, because we support policy expressions in the policy. So that means that you can then do cross charges to respective teams, developers, and departments. The second set of features is load balancer and circuit breaker. In case of Azure OpenAI, typically when customers start, they use pay-as-you-go instance. And they want to experiment fast, they want to deploy fast. But then once they figure out that they have a specific use case that they want to use, let's say they built a chat application, now they want to have some sort of a reserved capacity that they want to use. And in Azure, that is called provision throughput units, or PTUs. So you can think about it as a kind of a reserved capacity in terms of TPMs that is there for you that you can use. But then even that capacity can be exhausted So that's why what we see customers do is they have the primary region or primary instance of OpenAI to be PTU, which you want to exhaust first, and then you can fail over to pay-as-you-go instance in a secondary region or secondary instance. So that's something that you can do with load balancer and circuit breaker API management. Now, when it comes to authentication authorization, as I mentioned already, sharing one key with everyone probably is not the best idea. So with Azure API Management, what you can do is you can enable managed identity authentication from APIM to Azure OpenAI. So in that case, you don't really need to store this single key anymore. You don't really need to manage it. And on the other hand, you can, for developers that or API consumers that consume those LLMs, you can share subscription keys, or you can enhance it even further and validate JOT tokens, and then based on the claims in this token, actually give access or refuse access to specific APIs. Now, another part to have control over the cost is having token limit, token limits assigned to developers. So here you can specify two limits. One is short-term, which is tokens per minute. This is just to make sure that your endpoint is not getting throttled, so that all of the developers, all of the teams, all the applications, they can still call this single LLM endpoint. And another one is long-term, which is token quota, where you can specify how many tokens can be consumed per day, per hour, per week, per month, per year, and so on. Another thing is probably you're all familiar with caching, right? That's something that works very well with API management and kind of generic RESTful APIs. However, with LLM APIs, where you have prompts which can be semantically similar, you want to have something different. You actually want to understand how similar are two prompts, to make sure that you can actually return completion from cache instead of hitting the underlying backend with OpenAI, for example. So in that case, you can not only save on latency for frequently asked questions, especially it's important when you have a chat application, but you can also save on token consumption, because in that case, we are not spending tokens on generating the completion. Now, so all of the policies that I showed, they were specific to Azure OpenAI, and we started with Azure OpenAI because that's like one of the main models being used by customers. But we realized that it's not enough. So that's why we also introduced support for Azure AI Model Inference API. So this API is essentially like a single API for different models that you can deploy through Azure AI Studio model catalog. So you can deploy a Llama model, you can deploy Mistral, you can deploy Cohere, you can deploy Phi3, for example, and all of them will have the single API, which means that for developers, you can switch models and they don't need to rewrite their applications. They can still use the same SDKs, they can still use the same code that they already developed. So something which is new and which is coming for Azure API Management in the coming month is support for GPT-4o. So now you can track token consumption. You can apply all of the policies that I mentioned previously, not only for text-based input, but also for image-based input. And so that was a quick overview of what is available in API Management for Gen AI Gen AI APIs. So to get started, we have a separate dedicated documentation page where you can see all of the examples and all of the policies listed. There is a Gen AI Gateway Labs, which is a great resource for you to just try them out, because those Gateway Labs, they actually have bicep files that deploy a lab environment for you, and then you also are provided with a bunch of Python notebooks that you can use and see like how throttling is applied, how metrics work, how you can load balance, and so on, and actually more. For example, there are a lot of patterns, for example, to use like rec pattern to do function calling, to use prompt flow with OpenAI, for example. There are also samples to do that with APIM in the middle. And once you understand how these policies and capabilities work, we have two great resources that can help you start it with production deployment. So we have this Gen AI Hub landing zone, which is essentially a bunch of bicep files and kind of best practices and architecture guidance for you to deploy your AI hub to make sure that you have your Gen AI APIs under control. So yeah, that was a quick overview. Let me know if you have any questions. I will be happy to answer them. And with that, let me hand it over to Andrew.
Okay, thanks, Andrei. So as Andre says there, if you have any more questions, feel free to add them into the chat, and we'll get back to you on those. But we'll just crack on. I'm going to talk a little bit about AI backed with integration capabilities, and this is this can be a difficult one to get your head around. So what I'm actually going to do in this is really just look at a couple of scenarios as examples of things that we are working on that just give a flavor of what's possible even right now using these tools. And we're particularly looking back to some of the things that Steph said about Copilot Studio and how we can rewire business processes, just change the way that the sort of business user experience is. And so, all the stuff we've got here of, changing the experience, business processes, using the AI models, but ultimately the back-end data sources are the same, and the integration tools that wrap around that are still the same, but the building blocks are there, but we're wiring them together in a different way. So, so one of the first scenarios that I've got is how you can use this Copilot technology right now over your own data so that you can get meaningful support for your own applications, your own business processes, and that sort of thing. So look at our typical delivery process. We've got a custom delivery process that we use for integration projects, for example, which is our 345 Air solution delivery process, and we've got a whole load of documents that get created as part of that in terms of the actual life cycle, from sort of the business case documentation, high-level design, the infrastructure, all the requirements. So if you want to actually support a solution, a typical integration solution that we put in might have 80 to 100 business processes. And so that's a lot of requirements, that's a lot of designs, and that's a lot of solution. And it's like, how can we wrap all that together so that we can actually hand over that and make it supportable in a really short space of time, instead of having to take support teams through days and days and days and days of classroom training for things that they might not ever come across. So we'll delve into that in a moment as to how you might be able to put some of those things together and be able to take all this documentation and the solution code and actually expose that using the Copilot, so that you can ask it questions and it will answer you on how your solution fits together. And another scenario we're talking about is how we looked at Steph's diagram before, where you've got this thing here, but you've got the logic apps sticking that together. Now, logic apps are, for those of you who aren't familiar with integration, logic apps are an automated workflow. They allow you to write a business process like it's a flowchart, and for that to execute, which could be you take a bit of data in, you send it to another system, you go and get other data from another system, merge it together. That kind of, it's a core integration technology that provides that level of orchestration and data mapping, connectivity, all those things that are really important for integration. But we can actually build logic apps into this broader and richer picture using the new AI tooling. So really, I'm just going to cover off a couple of those scenarios, really just by doing a very, very quick demonstration for you. Now, I hope you can see this. I am going to zoom in, but this is Copilot Studio, and Copilot Studio is part of Power Platform. So this is aimed at the citizen developer. This is IT savvy people within your business, but the equivalent tools aimed at having a lot more control for development purposes are also available. But for the demo, I'm using Copilot Studio, and I've created a couple of agents here. And the first agent I'm going to demo is I just want to demo the fact that you can put custom knowledge into a Copilot and ask it questions, and it will give you sensible answers in the way that we can take a whole project's worth of documentation. So I can create a topic, and I created one, just playing around really. I created a topic called Ask Plato, where I could sort of ask Plato something, and then in terms of knowledge, I uploaded a whole load of dialogues. I didn't do them all, but it allows us to actually, and I can actually run this. So let me just zoom in a little bit and come over here so we can actually make this readable. So I can go and just sort of say, ask Plato, and it'll say, what would you like to ask? And for those of you who've read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, you might sort of say, what's the I can't type and speak at the same time, but I can say, what's the analogy of the dark horse? And it will go through that data, it'll go through that knowledge that I've given it, and it will come up with something that is quite an intelligent answer, which is, the dark horse is effectively your emotional, your animal elements, and the white horse is your intellectual elements. And I can also ask, what's what's the philosopher king? Knowing that that's a key part of the Republic, and so go through that, give me a summary of that, and we can see that very easily we can put knowledge into a Copilot, and this isn't going to the internet. This is just going to these text files that I've given it. So similarly, just if we were to actually think about that, how do we support an application? So I've created an integration support Copilot here. So as part of our integration toolkit, we've got an actual integration platform that we put in. I've got the architecture document for that. We are going to be releasing Copilots like this alongside our platform so that our customers can support it better. But just as an example, I've given the architecture document here. So again, I can go into the Copilot and say, here's I'm your integration support Copilot, and I can just sort of say, how does 345 Air use infrastructure as code? And it will actually look through my architecture document and come up with an answer on that and say, well, there you go. We've got pipelines there, and they're based on Bicep, and so that's okay. So which of API management and so again, there we go. So in this particular version of the architecture, we're recommending that you deploy the premium SKU. And the premium version of API management gives you the integrated networking and all security, and that's what we normally support. So very, very quickly, we can actually create a Copilot, point it at all your business knowledge, create a Copilot for your support teams or your development teams. And they can then have a much more interactive and rich way of supporting that piece of software than if they were just given a bunch of documents. Because realistically speaking, when you've got a big project and thousands of pages of text, you're never going to go through all that stuff. So it's a way of doing that. And just as another example, we talk about logic apps, and this is a very, very, very simple logic app that receives an HTTP request. It writes it to blob storage and then creates a response to say, yeah, I've done that. But a logic app, being that workflow, it can itself be exposed as an API. And we've already discussed how APIs can be pulled together into this whole framework of AI and Copilots and that sort of thing to do that. So again, another thing that I've built into the into this demo is just the ability to call an API. So I've got one which is a new staff member. This is where I really hope the demo gods are with me, because we're running this live. But if you wanted to provide a Copilot that could recommend something, in this case to onboard a new member of staff, and I can then I can then get that to call a logic app that will then call all the other systems that do that onboarding. And so we can take quite a complicated HR process that's really important for compliance and really important for employee satisfaction, and actually make that a process. So again, if we go and zoom in a bit more on this one, I can, I can then say, oh, we've got some new staff, and what's their name? It's obviously it's Andrew, and what's their number? It would be 345 is their staff number. And what we'll do is, and that can actually go out and call an API. In this case, I've just done the techie version and given that as a status code of 200, which means it's all happened swimmingly. But behind that, we've had a Copilot, we've had that chat experience. It could even have known the context, and that is the thing that we wanted to bake in with that. But if we then go back to Azure and look at the logic apps, here is, at 1:30, we've just had a logic app run that succeeded. And we can look at this and see that we had an HTTP request, and it's been successfully received. And we've created our blob, and there's our, I don't know if you can read this, maybe I'll just zoom in on this a little bit. But yeah, so we've got the staff number of 345 and the name of Andrew, and that's actually been sent through from our Copilot into a logic app in Azure, and actually we can then kick off a whole business process around that delivers real business functionality, but actually just completely transforms the experience of the people working in the business. So just a very, very quick flavor of what is possible there. But something definitely you can build on to deliver your own services into your own business using a very powerful set of tools. So, well, there was my demo. So I'm actually going to hand back over now to Steph. Oh, hang on a second.
You don't want to.
Maybe you could now, well, Steph, you could rescue me and actually get your part running, because I think that's just it's gone ahead one.
If only we hadn't already told folks that they were going to be hearing about it, we wouldn't be sneaking it in. Okay, so we've seen how we can leverage our integration capabilities to make the introduction of and the implementation of AI more robust and strongly governed and up to the kind of enterprise standards that we might expect. And we've also started seeing how we can back our AI capabilities with existing integration functionality, and also help actually build better integration products that are more explainable and easy to work with through the use of copilots as an assistant. So now kind of the last key area is not just like integration for AI or AI using integration, but actually using AI inside integration processes. So kind of actually building on this diagram to really have processes that leverage the AI capabilities to perform activities. So there's different ways that we can include AI in integration, and this is not exhaustive because it is just some of the things that came off the top of my head. So we can be thinking about AI with its cognitive capabilities to ingest data, whether that's like a handwritten form, some JSON or XML, a video, a Word document. Previously, we'd have had to write a lot of dedicated integration code to be able to consume that info and process it. And some formats, like multimedia video, wouldn't have been accessible as a data source. So now with AI, we can process these more comfortably. AI is a solution that can start to reason on our information. Actually means that we can reduce the amount of kind of hard-coded connections that try and handle all the weird and wonderful, wacky ways people make typos or change data fields or do anything with our systems that we need to be able to account for. So instead of having to write complex, high amounts of error handling code to be able to combine data to map between systems, we can instead use AI to kind of more intelligently conform it to say, hey, you've got this, it needs to look like this, make it happen. We can also use it to bring multiple signals or data sources together in a way that previously would be a lot of work. So imagine you're getting some data off of IoT devices that tell us about how a system is doing. And we've got the information from the asset library, asset register about the device. And we've got some staff pieces of information in a HR database about shifts. Being able to use AI to say, what exception, alert the right person who's on that device today when there is a problem. That's the kind of thing that we'd have to write a lot to support, and AI can actually start to bring these things together in a simpler way for us. And finally, Andrew mentioned that many businesses that they're working with might have hundreds of business processes, each with their own coded or low-code solution. What some of those solutions are going to be, every time a system changes, somebody might need to change those processes, or they might need to go in whenever somebody changes a system database or a schema or a new version. And instead of a lot of hard coding in these situations, it could be very possible for us to have AI look at the different systems, what the current schema is, work out what needs to be executed to achieve the business processes goals, and go and execute that instead of a hard-coded solution. So there's lots of ways that AI is going to help us bring in more data, conform it between systems, allow us to more intelligently reason on it, and be more change tolerant so that our business processes continue to add value. So I'm going to show one or two of the demos. I have 3, but I'm not going to be able to get through them all. So one of the first ones that I want to show is just a relatively kind of classic use case of you have suppliers or somebody sending you lots of scans, PDFs, emails of things like invoices, and being able to ingest that data into your different systems. So like Andrew, I can't talk and type at the same time. So here's one we recorded earlier. So I'm taking the Blue Peter approach. So we have PDFs that are going to be arriving by email of orders for products. So we can see we've got line items, we've got information like who's doing it, total cost, and a lot of the information we'd need in our ERP. So when that gets sent, our process is going to receive the email. It's going to check the ones for attachments, and then it's going to loop through each attachment and analyze the invoice with document intelligence It's going to extract information from that document intelligence response. So again, another API interaction. It's going to help, once it's got that information, we're then going to be able to write to our database, which in this case is Dataverse, an invoice record, and then a line items record. So this is a kind of a very standard data ingestion process that previously probably had a human having to type lots of these details. Instead, we're able to receive that email, process it, get the key information, and then also be able to get all the line items. So it's a really great way of changing a people-heavy process to a scalable, online, automatable one. And then I'm going to show one more demo. Near and dear to my heart, back in the day when I was working in financial services, one of the things that we used to have to do was a quarterly data quality audit. And keeping data in a fit state, typo tolerant, is incredibly challenging. So one of the best things that we can do is actually be doing data quality assessment on the fly. And of course, we've got capabilities like Microsoft Purview that can also do the scanning and kind of give us some comprehensive results. But what if you have critical data that you want to be validated every time it comes in? So in this example, we're going to have some data landing in our database. When we read a data change, our logic app is going to actually use AI to write the SQL to be able to run a data quality check about it versus the new row versus statistical information. If there's a problem, it's going to communicate with the human in the loop, and if not, it's going to make sure that the test's passed. Okay, so our logic app has kind of the process. We've got our data in our table, so previous checks. We're now going to make an OpenAI call. We have what's called a system prompt, and then we get the results back with a SQL that's been generated, and it goes and runs that against the database. If it returns fine, it's going to update the row or send for approval. So we're going to add some data here, which is fine. I think I already sped this up, so now I'm working too fast. So it's gone, generated comparison, and it's found that the data is fine. Now we have a user that was like not an email address, born in 1875, 200,000 steps a day, very outside the bounds. Because it found an error, it sent, it was unlikely, it sent an email with all the different data validation issues. So this has been able to dynamically generate SQL that could be outside the capabilities of the team needing to assure data quality, and being able to, with a very light amount of low code, no code usage using logic apps, being able to make an entire real-time data quality solution using AI. Now, obviously, in production, you'd want to like cache that SQL statement, potentially send it for human review and kind of finalization. But this is the kind of dynamic execution of code that we can be doing to meet needs in a more scalable solution for an integration or business process. So that is me on how we can use AI in different integration processes. I'm now going to hand back over to Andrew.
Thank you, Steph. I will. That was, some of those things that we've just been through there are just such powerful concepts. It's we're only just getting started on this, but they are immensely important. And so I just got kind of a bit of wrapping up now, and just talking about some of the, some of the success factors and some of the things we need to think about. Conscious of the fact that everyone is sitting at home at the moment with their brains in a state of meltdown, so I'm going to go fairly easy on you here, but just some of the things we've been talking about here are AI, and there is a whole load of important things we need to factor in. So the security and governance. I mean, Andre's talk on the APIs and the governance around using that is important, but also just the fact that AI only a year or two ago, it was firmly in the camp of the data scientists, and they were the AI people who were doing the machine learning on the models, and they knew a lot of this stuff. And then suddenly it's like AI has just come straight out into the business. And so a lot of the things that I think people that were very, very savvy about AI were very conscious of a lot of the what's the ethical and the transparency and that sort of thing. But these things now, because AI has come mainstream so fast, we've all got to start thinking about these things now. And so we've got to, we do have to think about how we govern AI. Particularly the IT organizations are going to be looking really at how they support that. Rather, it's another thing like giving people Office. You've got to you give people the tools, and then they're going to use them. But because AI is quite data hungry and that sort of thing, that's both the infrastructure and the data platform are really, really important. How do we get the right toolkit into the hands of the right people and make sure they're doing the appropriate things with them? How do we support them? And then there's also the just getting that technology rolled out. It's all there, it's all available, but we're already starting to find, and this is certainly the experience that I've got looking at this from the field, is that the main place AI is coming in is with the applications we're buying. That's going way ahead of the kind of the build your own AI, simply because it's much easier to buy something off the shelf. But there's still the whole thing of, if you buy an application, or if you want to use a tool, does that actually need your PCs? Does that actually need your desktop to be upgraded? What does it mean for that? Do you need to have sort of the AI ready, hardware embedded in that? And also, what's the training? So there's a massive amount of things you need to think about in order to take this forward organizationally. The technologists sort of do this all the time, of sort of go at pace and with what's possible, but actually organizationally making that happen, there's a lot of things. If we look at what that is in terms of data and apps, again, the data scientists were always about data quality and how you train stuff. Just the fact that this is coming out now into the business doesn't mean that those things about data quality and that kind of thing go away. It actually makes it even more important. So I would probably say, if you're worried about this in your business, what is your data strategy? How are you doing? How are you mastering your data? How are you ensuring you've got those clean and reliable data sets? That stuff becomes even more important as we move forward onto this. And it's still, there's still the opportunities to see what this can do for you. And then when you build an AI application, how you then expose that as an API and have other people use it. There's a lot in there, but data quality and the foundation, data is always so foundational. So do pay attention to that. And then in terms of your applications, and it's what is it you're looking to do? Because I think we've got all these whizzy tools, and it's really, what is it that you are looking to do? And so, a lot of the time, a lot of the places that we are getting a lot of success is, it's like the decision making thing. There's just so much data, so many documents, so much data in databases, logs from your operational systems. There's what's happened in your business process. There is so much data, and it's beyond us to analyze it in a way that suddenly we find that's really available to us in AI. So that decision-making process, being able to make that a different experience, and something, because you can have a Copilot experience, you can have a personal experience because you're asking your own question and getting your own answer, even though that service is available everywhere. But one other thing on this that I just really want to call out, because I am conscious of the fact that we're kind of running to the end of time, that sort of thing. But as with all these things, you've got data there, you're exposing it through AI apps, and please do also think about the security implications of that. And who's got access to that data? How can you make that? How can you make sure that stays in the eyes of just the people who need to? So just a few takeaways there, really, just to think about as we round off, and then just really concluding on that Azure plus the AI services, there's a whole, it's all there for you to use now, and really the limit is your imagination on where you go with that. And so again, if that sparked your imagination and you want to discuss any of that, then please do get in touch with me. So you can email me at andrew@345.technology, or if you go to our website, 345.technology, the first thing you'll see is a button saying book a call. You can hit that, and that will create a 30-minute call with me in your diary, and we can discuss any of these topics. So, I would love to get your thoughts and your feedback on what we've talked about today. So that actually is the end of the webinar today. I hope you've really enjoyed that. Thank you so much to Steph. Thank you so much to Andre for taking part. And Steph and Andre, are there any closing remarks you'd like to make?
Just thank you, Andrew, and everybody on the webinar today and who watches this. I think it's AI and integration is such a tremendous opportunity to help us be more impactful as technologists, as businesses, as public sector organizations. And I hope everybody takes this as an opportunity to grow and improve.
Thanks. Really to add, that's a great opportunity, and I hope with all of the tools that we showed today will help you in your journey.
Great stuff. So on that note, thank you everyone that's joined us. We've obviously got some of you live on StreamYard. We've also got people live on YouTube and live on LinkedIn. So whichever platform you've joined us today, thank you so much. It's been great to have you along for the webinar. And please do get in touch with anything else that, any other questions you may have, and enjoy the rest of your day. So thanks a lot, and goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.